During a heartwarming Mother's Day lunch, my son revealed, "Mom, are you truly enjoying the 15-hour shifts you work every week?" The words hung in the air like a storm cloud, ready to rain down on the carefully crafted joy of their lunch. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Sitting at their modest kitchen table, adorned with a hand-drawn card, heart-shaped cookies, and a simple sandwich, this was supposed to be a moment of celebration. But Ethan's innocent question pierced through the bliss, cracking the surface of her carefully maintained facade. Ethan, 10 and spirited, had taken it upon himself to surprise her that day. "Happy Mother's Day, Mom," he had chirped earlier, his eyes sparkling with excitement. The sandwich wasn't gourmet, just peanut butter and jelly, but it was made with utmost care. The cookies, slightly burnt but sweet, were packed with love, and the card featured stick figure drawings of the two of them, arm in arm, with hearts surrounding their portraits. To him, this lunch was a feast, but then, his brow furrowed as he took a bite of the sandwich. "Are you really enjoying those long hours you work?" The question slid off his lips, innocent yet profound, forcing Sarah to confront the reality swirling around them. It was as if the room had lost its warmth, the sunlight flickering as she felt a tightness in her chest. She marinated in silence, grappling with the irony of her dream job, the one that had once filled her with aspirations, now draining her spirit. "Ethan, sweetie," she started, her voice wavering like the fragile kitchen curtains dancing in the breeze. The conversation spiraled deeper, uncovering the layers of her exhaustion and the sheer weight of responsibility as a single mother. She spoke of her childhood dreams of making a difference, of healing people and comforting the sick. Yet here she was, coming home drained after yet another 15-hour shift, a cycle of bills and fatigue overshadowing the joy of motherhood. "This doesn't seem like a happy life for you, Mom," Ethan stated frankly. His wide eyes, so full of innocence, were now laden with worry. "Is it worth it?" Every word struck her like a thunderclap, awakening a flood of buried emotions. Their modest kitchen became a theater of reality, a stark contrast to the tender moment they had envisioned. The American dream, with its promises of hard work and success, now appeared as a distant mirage, just out of reach. Ethan, ever the brave little soul, proposed an idea that reshaped the narrative. "What if we started a garden?" His eyes sparkled with the kind of hope that only children can foster. "A place where we can grow our own food and maybe even sell it? We can be a team, Mom." It was a plan that seemed outrageous yet invigorating, a tiny flame kindling in the valley of their struggles, but as the weight of their conversation settled, Sarah felt the dichotomy between hope and reality gripping her heart. All around them, the world thrived on relentless ambition and success, yet it felt like they were merely surviving. As the sunlight from the window faded, a soft twilight draped over the kitchen. Sarah realized they were at a crossroads, her heart teemed with uncertainty mixed with a sliver of hope sparked by Ethan's words. She looked at her son, his serious expression juxtaposed with the playful spirit of their earlier lunch. Could love, shared dreams, and relentless resilience empower them to conquer the road ahead? Or would reality bind them with chains of hardship? The questions lingered between them, leaving an emotional silence lingering in the air as they navigated this complex path together. As twilight settled in, Sarah took a deep breath, stirring back into focus. The idea of a garden had sparked something in her, a tiny ember she could nurse back to life. "Ethan," she began, her voice stronger now, "what if we really did it?" His eyes widened, reflecting the flickering flame of possibility. "Really? We could?" he whispered, his face lighting up with a mix of disbelief and excitement. "Yes. I mean, why not? We've got some space out back. We can start small," she said, feeling an unfamiliar rush of enthusiasm surge through her. She imagined a patch of land flourishing with tomatoes, peppers, and the cheerful colors of flowers. They could escape the burden of their struggles for a while to plant, nurture, and watch the world awaken with life. "What about the soil?" Ethan asked, a furrow appearing on his brow as he delved deeper into their discussion. "We can figure it out. We can learn together. There are plenty of videos online," she replied, her heart swelling. The thought of working side by side with him, teaching him not just to grow food but also to grow dreams, melted away the chains that had weighed on her spirit. "Mom, let us grow carrots," he exclaimed. "And maybe we can make a salad." His eyes sparkled, the innocence shining through was precious. "Carrots it is. And a salad sounds great," she laughed, embracing the shared vision. They started brainstorming, tossing ideas around the table as if they were seeds themselves, ready to take root. Time passed, basking in their new goal. The sun dipped lower, painting the kitchen with warm hues of orange and gold, and laughter echoed off the walls. Ethan proposed names for their garden, insisting on something epic. "How about Ethan and Mom's Magical Vegetable Kingdom?" "That's a good one. But it's a bit long." "What about the Little Kingdom?" "Okay, but it must have a flag," he insisted, eyes twinkling with enthusiasm. For the first time in a while, Sarah felt a sense of lightness. The heaviness that often cast a shadow over their home seemed to lift. As they sketched out their plans on a piece of paper complete with stick figures holding hands in front of their imaginary garden, she felt hope inching back into her heart. Later, as they tucked in for the night, Sarah sat on the edge of Ethan's bed, feeling the warmth and love radiating from him. "You know, sweetie, I don't want you to ever feel like you have to save me. It's okay to dream and wish for a better life. But it's okay to feel sad too," she said gently. Ethan nodded, a thoughtful expression spreading across his young face. "I just want you to be happy, Mom." "I know, honey. And I want you to be happy too. We can do this together." But deep down, a nagging fear still loomed. Would their dream be strong enough to see them through the hardships? The next morning, Sarah found a note on the kitchen table, written in Ethan's careful handwriting. "Let us make this garden our secret challenge. I love you, Mom." And for the first time, she felt like they were not just surviving but building a future, one seed at a time. Yet, as she stared at the simple note and imagined their hands digging into the dirt, another thought emerged. What if they weren't ready for the changes ahead? The questions lingered, as did an unexpected fear. Could they really transform a garden into their refuge when their lives seemed filled with chaos? In the soft morning light pouring through the window, Sarah felt a mix of hope and uncertainty, both vital ingredients for the journey they were about to embark on. And she wondered whether their little garden could be more than just a dream. Could it truly be the salvation they had been seeking? The next day was bursting with energy and promise. Sarah woke up with the sun spilling through the window, warmth touching her skin. It felt like hope was wrapping around her, coaxing her into action. She shuffled into the kitchen, the aroma of fresh coffee filling the air like an old friend. Ethan was already seated at the table, a bowl of cereal in front of him and his notebook sprawled open. "Mom, look!" he exclaimed, pointing at the sketches he had drawn. They were vibrant illustrations of what their garden could look like. Carrots sprouting up from the ground, flowers blooming with all the colors of the rainbow, and cheerful bugs buzzing about. "That looks amazing," Sarah said, her heart fluttering at his enthusiasm. "You've captured everything so perfectly." "Thanks. I really want it to be special," he beamed, his face illuminating with every word. They spent the morning making lists of everything they needed, from seeds to shovels. Each item felt like a small step into a world that was waiting for them. Sarah found herself caught up in the thrill, pushing aside doubts that had lingered in corners of her mind. "Let us go to the store today," Ethan said, bouncing on his chair, barely containing his excitement. "Okay. But remember, we have to stick to our budget," Sarah replied, knowing that every dollar mattered. They headed out, the air fresh with spring. The local hardware store had a garden section that stretched across the back. As they walked through the rows of seedlings and pots, Ethan's eyes widened. "Look at all these plants, Mom!" he shouted, racing from one display to another. They settled on carrot seeds, a few packs of flower seeds, and a small bag of soil. With their cart filled, Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment bubbling in her chest. It was a tiny victory, but it sparked a fire. They paid for their goodies and headed home, chattering about all the possibilities awaiting them. Back in the yard, they stood before their patch of dirt, now looking like a blank canvas. "What do we do first?" Ethan asked, glancing up at Sarah, his face a mixture of curiosity and indecisiveness. First, we have to prepare the soil. Let us dig it up and make it ready for our seeds, she replied, gripping a trowel and handing Ethan a small spade. As they dug together, the sun warmed their backs, and laughter filled the air. Sarah could feel the burdens of their life, the worries about bills, the stress of her job slowly melting away. In its place, a connection was building with Ethan, stronger than ever. "Mom! Look!" Ethan called out, his voice filled with wonder. He had unearthed a small worm. "Can we keep him?" Sarah chuckled, shaking her head. "No, but it means our soil is alive. That's a good sign." Hours passed like minutes, the garden slowly transforming under their hands. When they paused for a break, Sarah leaned back, taking a moment to breathe. The dirt under her nails was a reminder of their hard work and dedication. "Look what we've started, Ethan," she said, looking around them. "This is just the beginning." Ethan grinned, looking out at their little patch of land. But then, a thought crossed his mind. What if the plants don't grow? The innocence in his voice pierced through her joyful haze. A chill ran through her. "They might not all grow, honey. But it's okay. We can learn and try again." Ethan nodded slowly, digesting this. "Like when I practiced my baseball swing and it took a long time to get it right?" "Exactly," she smiled softly. "It takes time and patience. Just like life." As they began to water the soil, the sun began to set, casting beautiful shadows that danced across the ground. There was so much more they would face: doubts, setbacks, and worries they couldn't see yet. "Mom, do you think we'll have a big garden someday?" Ethan asked, his voice a mix of hope and trepidation. "I think we will grow something beautiful together," Sarah said, squeezing his hand, uncertainty dancing in her heart. But deep down, she felt a new challenge was waiting for them. They had ignited a spark, and now they needed to nurture it. What lay ahead felt daunting, but they were no longer alone. And as they planted their first seeds in the earth, a whisper of something profound began to blossom in Sarah's heart. Could their little patch become more than a garden? Could it lead them toward the brighter days they both craved? The sweet anticipation hung in the air, as they glanced at each other, sharing a silent promise to embrace whatever was to come next. The next morning greeted Sarah with an orchestra of birds singing outside her window. She felt a renewed sense of purpose as she quickly brewed coffee and prepared breakfast. Ethan bounced into the kitchen, full of energy. "Mom, today can we talk about what we're going to plant?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Of course. Let us plan it out," she replied, raising an eyebrow playfully. "How about we draft a schedule? We'll want to organize how we'll care for everything as it grows." Ethan clapped his hands. "Yes. A garden schedule sounds fun." They sat at the kitchen table, paper and colorful markers spread out like rainbow seeds. As they drew, Sarah felt a sense of joy washing over her. Each sketch bubble filled with ideas when to plant, water, weed. The plans felt almost like a map, guiding them into uncharted territory, a new kind of family adventure. "Can we plant sunflowers? They're my favorite," Ethan suggested, enthusiasm bubbling over. "Absolutely. Sunflowers will bring so much color," she agreed, moving her pencil to note it down. Hours slipped by as they brainstormed their garden vision. Laughter mingled with practical talk, and for the first time in a while, Sarah felt lighthearted. But as they finalized their plan, a shadow of doubt flickered back in her mind. Was she truly capable of nurturing this garden? Later that day, Sarah took Ethan to a local garden center to gather more supplies. The store brimmed with life. Vibrant blooms and aromatic herbs filled the aisles. Ethan was captivated, darting from one display to the next, his passion contagious. "Look at these vibrant flowers, Mom!" he shouted, holding up a pot of marigolds. "We need these for our garden." "Definitely. They'll help keep the bugs away too," she replied, her spirits lifting at his enthusiasm. After browsing the selection and carefully choosing flowers, herbs for cooking, and even a few pots to decorate the entrance to their home, they headed back with their treasure trove. As they unloaded the car, Ethan turned to her, curiosity shining in his eyes. "Mom, are you really enjoying all this?" he suddenly asked, tilting his head. The question took her by surprise. Sarah paused, examining his earnest expression. "You know, sweetheart, it feels great to spend time like this with you, but sometimes I worry. What if things don't go as planned?" Ethan's brow furrowed for a moment before he nodded in understanding. "Like when the movie has a sad part, but then it gets happy again?" Sarah chuckled, reminded of their favorite films filled with ups and downs. "Exactly. Just like life, right? There will always be moments we don't expect." Ethan crossed his arms, deep in thought. "But the happy parts always make the sad ones worth it, don't you think?" "That's a wise way to look at it," she said, beaming at him. As they started digging again in their patch of earth, the familiar warmth of the sun kissed their skin. They planted the marigolds first. The vibrant oranges and yellows popped against the rich brown soil. Every seed sunk into the earth felt like a silent promise. But later, as they started to water their new plants, Sarah noticed a dark cloud rolling in across the horizon. The air turned heavy, and she could feel the change. "Ethan, we might get some rain soon. Let us finish up so we can protect our plants." With urgency, they wrapped up, hustling to finalize their garden tasks. They dashed inside just as raindrops began to patter against the window, growing heavier by the minute. "Do you think the plants will be okay?" Ethan asked, worry creeping into his voice. "Absolutely. They need the rain to grow stronger," Sarah reassured him, pulling him close. As thunder rumbled in the distance, Sarah felt a swell of emotions. Through the uncertainty and the storms, both literal and metaphorical, they were building something deeply meaningful together. "This garden, it's not just about plants, is it?" she whispered, sensing a world full of possibilities ready to unfold, but then a flash of lightning lit up the room, and an unwelcome thought pierced through her mind. What if the storm wasn't the only challenge they'd face? "Mom," Ethan asked gently, eyes wide with both wonder and concern, "what if we lost it all? Would we still be okay?" As the raindrops fell heavier, creating a melodic soundtrack of nature, Sarah held him tighter, her heart racing with a new realization. Could the garden survive not just the storm, but also their fears together? What awaited them on the other side? With questions swirling like the winds outside, Sarah knew one thing: this journey had only just begun. The storm raged on outside, a stark contrast to the warmth nurturing the tiny shoots they had planted. Sarah looked out the window, her fingers dancing nervously against her coffee cup. The rhythmic sound of raindrops pounding against the glass did little to calm her swirling thoughts. She turned away, finding solace in Ethan's laughter as he enthusiastically constructed a fort out of couch cushions, seemingly untouched by the storm, but uncertainty lingered like the storm clouds overhead. Would their garden withstand more than just rain? What if their dreams, like the seedlings outside, didn't thrive? "Mom!" Ethan's voice broke through her reverie, pulling her back. He poked his head through an opening in the fort, his eyes filled with mischief. "Are you coming to my castle, or are you just going to stand there?" His laughter was infectious. Sarah felt herself smile, shaking off the doubts like water from her shoulders. "I think I'd much rather be in your castle than worrying about rain," she called back, moving to join him. The fort, decorated with a few twinkling fairy lights, was an instant escape from the outside world. Inside it, they had created a realm of imagination, as if the turbulent weather could do nothing to invade their sacred space. "Welcome, Queen of the Garden," Ethan declared, his arms wide. "Thank you, loyal prince," she replied, sinking into their fortress and feeling her heart lighten. They played for what felt like hours, creating epic tales of brave knights and magical creatures. The weather outside grew fiercer, the rumbling thunder becoming part of their adventure, yet, as the tempest echoed around them, Sarah couldn't shake the thought of what would happen when the storm passed. "Ethan, when the sun comes back, what do you think our garden will look like?" she asked, wanting to share the fragile hope blossoming in her heart. Ethan pondered for a moment, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Well, if it's like our fort, it will be super cool. And we can have a picnic there," His innocent enthusiasm filled Sarah with warmth. A picnic sounds amazing, she agreed, feeling a flicker of determination surge within her. What do you want to eat? Sandwiches, fruit, and maybe cupcakes. He exclaimed, his excitement spilling over. With sprinkles. They'll be a surprise for our plants when they wake up. For the first time that day, Sarah leaned back in soft surrender. Maybe that was the point. The act of nurturing wasn't just about the garden. It was about creating memories. About celebrating each moment, even the messy ones. As thunder roared, a thought flitted across her mind. Could their journey be more than just growing a garden? She bit her lip, feeling a new trace of apprehension mingling with hope. Ethan, she began, preparing to unfurl her concerns. What if before she could finish, the lights flickered and a loud clap of thunder cut her off? Mom. That was close. Ethan's eyes were wide, a mix of fear and excitement. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the moment. It sure was. But remember, that thunder is just the sky saying hello. His giggle broke through the tension, and Sarah couldn't help but join in. Suddenly, they heard a loud bang against the window. But this time, it wasn't thunder. The garden's stakes had loosened, causing the makeshift materials of their new green oasis to tremble in the rain. Mom. Ethan said, jumping to his feet. What's happening out there? Panic rose in her chest. I think our garden might need us. Instead of hesitating, they rushed to the door, hearts racing as they threw on rain jackets and grabbed a couple of garden stakes. The storm consumed the world outside, but their mission felt grand and heroic. Let us save our garden. Ethan shouted, his small voice determined. Together, we can do anything, Sarah replied, feeling a mix of trepidation and joy as they bolted into the rain. What awaited them outside was still a mystery. Would they be able to protect their dreams from the storm? Would this moment of uncertainty ripple into a deeper understanding of what it meant to nurture not just a garden, but their bond as a family? Hand in hand, they stepped out, ready to face the storm both outside and within their hearts. As the rain poured down, Sarah braced herself for whatever challenges lay ahead. Would they emerge with their garden and their spirits intact? The rain hit hard, a relentless barrier as Sarah and Ethan pushed through the garden gate. Each step squelched in mud, the ground beneath them a chaotic mix of soil and water. The air was thick with the scent of rain and the tang of earth, refreshing yet alarmingly turbulent. Look! Ethan shouted, pointing at a nearby stake that had bent under the weight of the wind. That one needs our help. Let us go. Sarah replied, her voice firm but encouraging. She could feel adrenaline coursing through her veins. Droplets clung to her eyelashes, blurring her vision, but she pressed on, driven by a fierce protectiveness for their little patch of green. The stakes around their garden looked like scattered soldiers, fighting a losing battle against the tempest. Just as she reached for the first one, a crack of lightning lit up the sky. For a split second, the world was awash in bright white light, illuminating Ethan's wide, astonished eyes. Mom! That was amazing! He yelled, laughter mingling with the storm's roar. Right? But we need to hurry. Sarah responded, her heart racing. She yanked the stake upright, feeling the pull of fear tighten in her chest. What if it wasn't enough? Together, they secured the stakes into the ground, their hands slippery and cold. The wind howled, whipping their hair around like wild banners declaring their determination. With each moment spent in the storm, Sarah felt her worries blend with a sense of exhilaration. This was about more than the garden, it was about fighting for what mattered. Ethan leaned closer, his face barely visible through the downpour, determination set in his features. What if the plants are scared, Mom? Sarah paused, considering his innocent question. I think they are. But they'll be okay, just like us. We're here for them. But what if they wash away? The worry in his voice struck her, and she felt a pang in her heart. Wasn't she doing the same worrying? Then we'll plant new ones, she assured him, her voice shaky yet resolute. No storm lasts forever. Just then, heavy winds blew more debris into their garden, scattering some of the lighter plants. Sarah gasped, a fresh wave of panic washing over her. Ethan. Grab that one. Without hesitation, he lunged for a green sprout, his small legs faltering in the mud as he reached for it. I've got it, Mom. With his little hands gripping the fragile plant, Sarah felt an unexpected swell of hope. Their bond was their strongest support. They might not have the perfect garden, but together, they had something far more powerful, a shared spirit. After what felt like an eternity, they managed to secure as many plants as they could. Gasping for breath, soaked through and muddy, they finally stepped back to admire their frantic work. Do you think we did it? Ethan asked, his eyes wide with uncertainty. I think we did our best, Sarah said, putting her arm around him, pulling him close. And that's what matters. The rain began to slow, as if the world was finally breathing out after moments of chaos. She could feel the tension easing as the wind softened. They stood together, soaked but proud. Slowly, the sun peeked through the vanishing clouds, casting a gentle glow over what remained of their garden. Mom, look! Ethan squealed as he spotted a small patch of blue sky. The sun is coming back. Just like I said, Sarah said, smiling through her own exhaustion. There's always light after the storm. She felt a wave of gratitude wash over her as they looked at their garden, fragile yet resilient. Would their efforts pay off? With time, she realized, it didn't really matter. What was important was their willingness to face challenges together. As they turned to head back to the warmth of the house, Ethan suddenly stopped, looking thoughtful. Mom, what if we get to the garden tomorrow and everything's gone? Then we will plant again. We will grow, she replied firmly, holding his hand tightly. Okay, but what if it's not just plants? He asked, genuine worry lacing his words. His question lingered like the fading storm clouds. What if? Her heart raced again, the uncertainty creeping back in. Let us just enjoy today, Ethan, she said softly, hoping her words were enough. But deep inside, she knew this feeling of uncertainty wouldn't vanish so easily. Maybe tomorrow would bring new challenges, ones unlike any they had faced before, ones that tested the very foundation of their bond. They stepped back inside the house, leaving behind the chaos outside, yet the seed of a new worry had been planted in Sarah's heart. What would they discover when they returned to the garden? Would they be ready to face whatever awaited them in the light of a new day? The next morning, the sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow across the cluttered table. Sarah poured a generous cup of coffee, savoring the rich aroma. Ethan was babbling excitedly about plans for the day, hopping from foot to foot as he munched on a piece of toast. Can we go back to the garden, Mom? Please? He asked, wiping crumbs from his mouth. His eyes sparkled with an infectious energy that tugged at her heartstrings. Of course, buddy. I want to see how our little plants are holding up, she replied, a small smile stretching across her lips. But beneath her cheer, a knot of anxiety twisted. She was eager to see their hard work, but the fear of what they might find lingered in the back of her mind. As they approached the garden gate, the vivid remnants of the storm danced in her thoughts. The muddy ground still bore the blemishes of last night's tempest, the air heavy with the sweet scent of fresh growth. You ready? Sarah asked, her voice catching slightly. Ethan nodded, his small hands squeezing hers tightly as they pushed the gate open together. At first, nothing seemed amiss. The garden stood as a testament to their efforts. The plants looked worn but alive, their leaves still glistening with droplets of dew. For a moment, relief washed over Sarah like a gentle wave. But then Ethan gasped, pointing at a dark shape on the ground. Mom! What's that? She squinted, her heart sinking as she moved closer. A patch where a row of vibrant flowers had been was now nothing but bare earth, plants uprooted and discarded like broken promises. Oh no! Sarah whispered, her stomach twisting. What happened? Ethan's voice trembled. The joy in his face faded, replaced by confusion and fear. Sometimes storms can be too powerful for even the strongest plants, Sarah replied, fighting back tears. But, we can fix this. We just need to try again. Ethan blinked back tears of his own. But I wanted to see them all happy like yesterday. I know, honey, she said, kneeling to meet his gaze. It's hard to see something we care about get damaged. But look around. Most of our garden is still here. Those plants are fighters, just like us. As she spoke, a soft wind rustled the remaining foliage, and a small bird landed nearby, chirping a lively tune. For a moment, the atmosphere brightened. Ethan watched the bird, curiosity flickering in his eyes. That little one seems pretty happy, he said, a smile breaking through. Yes, it does. And if it can bounce back, so can we. What do you say we clean this up together and plant new ones? We can even choose our favorites this time. Really? He asked, a glimmer of hope lighting his face. Absolutely. Sarah affirmed, her heart lifting with newfound determination. We'll make it even better than before. With a shared chuckle, they rolled up their sleeves and got to work. As they cleared away the debris, they talked about the flowers they wanted to plant: bold sunflowers, cheerful marigolds, and bright zinnias. Each choice felt like a promise of resilience and a chance for new beginnings, a golden thread woven into the fabric of their shared journey. Hours slipped by as they planted, the sun overhead turning the day into a vibrant canvas of blues and greens. Just as they finished, Ethan beamed, looking proudly at their work. Mom, this feels great. He exclaimed, standing back to admire their handiwork. Sarah's heart swelled with pride, but in the back of her mind, the unease still lurked. We did do a good job, didn't we? But remember, this garden will need nurturing. Storms can come back, and we have to be ready. Like little defenders. Ethan grinned, swinging a small shovel like a sword. Exactly. And we'll face them together. Suddenly, a shadow passed overhead, making both of them look up. A dark cloud loomed in the distance, rapidly approaching, and a rush of wind sent a chill through the air. Ethan's smile faded as he once again clutched her hand tightly. Is it going to storm again? Sarah's heart raced, memories of their recent struggle flooding her mind. Let us hurry and clean up, just in case. But as they scrambled, an unsettling thought flickered in Sarah's mind. What if this storm was more than just rain? What if it brought challenges that tested them in deeper ways than they ever anticipated? A sharp crack of thunder echoed in the distance, rumbling ominously, and Sarah turned to face Ethan, his expression filled with uncertainty. Hold on tight, Ethan. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out, together. With the sky darkening above, they rushed to secure their garden once more, the weight of new challenges looming on the horizon. What awaited them beyond the veil of those threatening clouds would soon become the ultimate test of their bond. The wind howled as Sarah and Ethan rushed to gather the loose tools and stakes scattered around the garden. Each gust seemed to carry a whisper of uncertainty, echoing her mounting worries. Mom, do you think the flowers will be okay? Ethan asked, his small voice breaking through the noise of the approaching storm. He was tugging on his favorite baseball cap, as if it might shield him from the stormy weight of the moment. I hope so, Ethan, she replied, glancing up at the darkening sky. But we're going to do everything we can to help them. Just like we always do. Sticking close, they hurriedly shoved freshly dug earth back into place around the new plants, securing them as best they could against the impending downpour. The sky rumbled again, and Sarah couldn't help but steal a glance at Ethan. His wide eyes reflected both excitement and apprehension. Remember the last storm? He said, his thoughts racing. We lost so many of our plants. What if this one is worse? Adrenaline surged through Sarah. She knelt beside him, cupping his face in her hands. Honey, each storm is different. And you know what? We have learned so much since then. We're stronger now. We can build this garden together no matter what comes our way. Ethan nodded, his tiny hand reaching out to squeeze her fingers tightly. Her heart ached for the fear that lurked behind his brave facade. They had both faced so much this past year. The little victories they achieved in the garden felt like monumental wins for their family spirit. But now, the shadows above threatened to dampen their hard-earned joy. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder erupted, shaking the ground beneath them. They both flinched, and Ethan's grip tightened. "What do we do if it gets worse?" he murmured. "Let us finish this up and head inside. We'll have hot chocolate and watch the storm from the window. It's always cozy watching the rain, isn't it?" Sarah suggested, trying to mask her own nervousness with a smile. Just as they secured the last of the plants, the first drops of rain began to fall, plopping against the leaves like tiny percussionists. They hurriedly darted toward the garden gate, but before they could reach it, rain began to pour, turning the ground into a slick mess. "Run!" Sarah exclaimed, laughing despite the chaos as she tugged Ethan into a sprint. They slipped and skidded, dodging splashes of muddy water as they finally burst through the gate and into the house, breathless and soaked. Inside, they tumbled onto the warm, wooden floor. Ethan's giggles filled the room as they kicked off their drenched shoes. Sarah couldn't help but join in. Sometimes laughter was the best armor against life's little storms. As they settled down on the couch, pulling a soft blanket around them, Sarah glanced out the window. The garden, once vibrant, was now swaying and shrouded in a curtain of rain. Her heart sank slightly, but then she noticed the small bird again, sheltered under the large oak tree, its feathers fluffed up against the downpour. "Look, Ethan. That bird is smart. It knows how to find shelter from the storm," she pointed out with renewed hope. "Just like us," Ethan beamed, his fear replaced by that spark of resilience. "We found our shelter, Mom." The clouds continued to rumble, but Sarah felt a tide of warmth wash over her, knowing they would face whatever came next together. The looming challenges of the storm began to fade as their eyes softened with the comforts of home, a fortress against whatever nature threw at them. "Now, hot chocolate?" she suggested, rising from the couch with a sense of purpose, but just as she turned toward the kitchen, a crackling noise broke through the sound of rain. She froze. The lights flickered ominously, and the entire house seemed to murmur with an unusual tension. "Mom?" Ethan asked, eyes wide with concern. Sarah swallowed hard. "Let us stay calm," she replied, her voice steady yet cautious. "We just need to be ready if the power goes out. We'll be okay." But as she spoke, fear slithered back into her heart. Would this storm bring more than just heavy rain? She couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, something that would test everything they had built. Ethan clutched her hand tighter, glancing toward the door where the rumble of thunder raged outside. Sarah's thoughts raced as she prepared for the unexpected. What if the storm brings something we didn't expect?" she said softly. His grip tightened on her hand. "Then we'll face it together, right?" "Yes, together," she whispered, but the uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Just then, the lights flickered again and went out completely, plunging them into darkness. "Mom?" Ethan's voice sliced through the stillness, echoing her own fears. With the storm raging outside, Sarah knew they were about to find out what challenges were waiting for them in the shadows, and she had to keep them both safe. The dark was thick around them. Sarah could feel its weight pressing in, wrapping around her and Ethan like a heavy blanket. She took a deep breath, willing her racing heart to slow down. "Okay, Ethan, let us find some candles," she said, trying to keep her voice light. She led the way through the familiar hallway, but it felt different in the dark, the silence nearly suffocating. With her hands outstretched, she reached for the cupboard where she kept the emergency supplies. The faint sound of rain pounding against the windows created a rhythm that echoed her heartbeats. She knocked over a few items, the clatter shocking both of them. "Mom!" Ethan exclaimed, his voice trembling slightly. "Shoo, it's okay. I just need to find them." She rummaged through the shelves, her fingers grazing over the smooth surface of candle holders and the rough edges of matches. Finally, she felt the cool metal of a flashlight. Clutching it tightly, she flicked it on. A beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the worried expression on Ethan's face. "There we go. Now we can see." She offered a bright smile, hoping it conveyed more confidence than she felt. Can we light the candles, Mom? He stepped closer, his small hand reaching out for the flickering beam. Of course. She pulled out a couple of candles, holding them high so he could see. She lit them one by one, the gentle flame dancing softly, casting a warm glow over the kitchen. See how pretty they look? She asked, trying to deflect some of his worry. Yeah. They look like little stars. Ethan's face lit up, and Sarah felt a swell of relief. Together they placed candles around the room, each one becoming a little beacon of comfort, pushing back against the dark. As they settled back on the couch, the rain continued its relentless song outside. The world beyond felt far away, and Sarah leaned back, pulling Ethan close under the blanket. What's your favorite part about storms? She asked, wishing to steer the conversation to a happier note. Ethan considered for a moment, his eyebrows furrowed in deep thought. I like how they make everything feel fresh afterwards. Like the grass and flowers are getting a shower. Sarah chuckled softly, realizing how wise he was. You're right. And after this storm, our garden will get a nice drink. Ethan grinned, his worries beginning to fade. Just like that bird. Exactly. We'll be like that bird, safe together and waiting for the storm to pass. But just as they began to relax, a low rumble shook the ground beneath them. The house shivered, and the lights flickered back on, only to dim and go out again, plunging them into darkness. Mom! What's happening? Ethan's voice rose in panic. It's all right, sweetie. It's just the storm. But her own heart raced. This kind of fluctuation could mean trouble with the power lines. She took his hand, squeezing it firmly. Let's South stay close to each other, okay? We're safe, and we'll be just fine. As they waited in the cocoon of candlelight, the storm raging outside threatened to steal away their comfort. But it was the sounds of nature, the wind, the rain, the now distant thunder that brought a sense of existence to their moment. Hours seemed to stretch, and every time the wind howled or the trees crackled, Sarah felt Ethan flinch by her side. Can I tell you something? He finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper yet filled with earnestness. Anything, honey, she reassured him, guiding him to lean his head on her shoulder. What if the storm doesn't stop? What if it gets worse? Her heart ached as she caught his gaze, wide with fear, mirroring all her own worries. If it does, we will face it together. Remember? Just like always, she said, holding his gaze steady, and in that moment, with the storm raging and their world seemingly shrunk to just the two of them, something shifted inside her. The fear felt heavy, but so too did the trust, the bond they had forged in the quiet moments of chaos. Before she could fully understand it, a loud crash filled the air. Something outside had fallen, a branch or maybe something larger. Ethan gasped, his small voice quivering. Mom, what was that? Sarah held his hand tighter. We'll check it out when the rain slows. For now, let us just listen to the storm. Can you hear it? It's telling a story. But as they listened, another sound emerged, a low whirring that seemed out of place, a sound that did not belong to the storm. Gritting her teeth, she prepared herself. What could it mean? The tension in her chest coiled tighter, the flickering candle flames reflecting the uncertainty of their night. Can you stay strong for just a little longer? She whispered, sensing the storm was only the beginning of the night's trials. Just then, the whirring stopped, leaving a suffocating silence in its wake. And deep down, Sarah knew they were about to face something they weren't prepared for. The whirring noise intensified, like a low hum building into a frenzy. Sarah's heart thumped in her chest as she clutched Ethan tighter. Stay close, she whispered, but fear began to creep in, gnawing at her resolve. What if Ethan's voice trembled, his innocent mind grasping at shadows? Let us focus on the sound. Maybe it'll tell us what we need to do next, she encouraged, channeling her own anxiety into bravery. The lights flickered again, this time more forcefully, before plunging the room back into a veil of darkness. The candles remained their only solace. Mom, the storm's mad. Ethan said, his voice quivering at the edges. I know, but storms come and go. This will pass, Sarah said, hoping her confidence would seep into him. Then they heard a loud crash, a sound more ominous than anything they had faced so far. A mixture of panic and curiosity flooded through her. We need to check outside, Sarah decided, despite the fluttering apprehension in her chest. Let us see what's happening. They grabbed the flashlight, its beam slicing through the heavy darkness. With shaky hands, Sarah opened the door and braved the rain once more. They stepped out into the chaos, the air thick and charged with electricity. It was a different world, the garden transformed. What was once orderly now looked wild, plants and debris flung about. Over there. Ethan pointed, illuminating what looked like a large branch toppled over the garden. The storm had claimed part of their sanctuary. Sarah's heart sank. The beautiful little kingdom they had built seemed to tremble under the weight of the winds. They stumbled closer, faces illuminated by their tiny beam of hope. "Mom, the flowers!" Ethan cried, his voice piercing through the howling wind. The marigolds they had planted were uprooted, lying defeated on the ground, tears threatened to spill over, yet Sarah fought them down. "We can fix this," she whispered, pulling Ethan into a comforting hug. In that moment, amidst the chaos, they shared a fleeting realization. It wasn't just about the flowers. It was about their journey together. With renewed determination, they worked side by side under the pouring rain. Sarah screamed encouragement against the storm, "Grab that flower. We can replant it. Hold this one steady." Their laughter began to fight against the tempest, their giggles harmonizing with the storm's furious growl. "Mom! We are saving the garden!" Ethan shouted, newfound vigor lifting him. "We are!" she echoed, feeling fire ignite within her heart. Together they planted what they could salvage, coaxing life back from the chaos surrounding them. "This garden is strong. Just like us." As they worked, the storm began to ease, the frenzied rhythm turning into a soft patter. Relief washed through them like warmth breaking against the cold, and a lull settled over the world. Finally, they stood back, drenched yet triumphant, surveying the battle-scarred garden. "We did it, Mom!" Ethan cheered, alight with joy. Her heart exploded with gratitude, staring at Ethan's bright face. "You were right." She beamed. "We faced it together." The air felt lighter now, and even as the clouds began to disperse, rays of sunlight fought their way through, splashing down golden light. In that moment, something shifted, hope pushed against the remnants of fear, affirming their bond. "See, Ethan," she said softly, watching the rain-soaked garden. "With the storms come the sunshine." Just then, a small bird landed on a battered marigold, pecking gently at the remaining blooms. "Look! Just like us." Ethan pointed, excitement bubbling up again. "That's right," Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with love. "Life finds a way. So will we." With the last of the storm diminishing, they began to walk back toward the house, hand in hand. Fear no longer weighed down their steps. "Let us grow our garden even bigger," Ethan announced, a radiant grin illuminating his face. "Yes. And we'll make it a safe place for that little bird too." Sarah laughed, feeling the heaviness of the night lift. As they stepped back into their warm home, sincerity wrapped itself around them like a soft blanket. They had not only held on through the storm together but had also learned to adapt and nurture their dreams amid uncertainty. This was the beginning of something extraordinary, a garden not just of plants, but of resilience, love, and unity. It became the sanctuary they could always return to. With hearts ablaze, they realized that challenges would always come and go, but they could face them, one seed at a time, and as they embraced their metaphorical dawn, Sarah felt a new spark ignite, an unwavering belief in a future bright with possibility. You need to subscribe now to catch all our exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support, so leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your support is what keeps us going.